Tools like ChatGPT and AI Search work more off brand mentions. Like Google is still the beast when it comes to demand capture. People are so used to going to Google first. A lot of websites that have historically invested in SEO, they're seeing their traffic go down. They're seeing clicks from Google Organic go down. And the main reason for that is
he built a 7-figure agency with just one employee.
He could hit my weaknesses. He'd had experience in building teams and experience in hiring. I was like, you're literally the perfect candidate. You can do everything that I can or I don't want to be doing because I'm terrible at it.
Today's guest is Sam Dunning, founder of Breaking B2B, an agency at 120k MRR that helps SaaS brands dominate search and AI visibility.
Doing about 120, 130.
How have you managed to do that?
Learning from all my mistakes over the years, really, and being painfully consistent.
In today's episode, we unpack how Sam helped Adam Robinson scale our B2B to $6.3 million ARR through smart bottom-of-funnel SEO.
Adam's grown our B2B tremendously with his founder brand on LinkedIn. 4 columns. What's our main offer? What's the industries that we serve best? What are all the main competitors that come up on sales conversations or that we get evaluated against? And column 4 is what's our dream clients' jobs to be done?
The step-by-step playbook for ranking inside ChatGPT and AI overviews before anyone else, and how to run a lean, high-margin agency without burning out.
If you want to take SEO and AI search seriously in B2B tech, then you want to control the narrative. Pull as much customer research and insights as you can about why people choose you for that.
So if you want your business to show up everywhere people search, from Google to ChatGPT, this episode is for you. Sam, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hey, Jordan. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to diving in.
Can we start right at the beginning? So how did you get started in digital marketing and what was the story to kind of end up in the SEO space?
Oh, yeah. Mine's a bit of a weird one if we go back. So my very first job was in retail. So I worked in, those in the UK might know the shop, Jessop's camera shop. So when I was, 17, 18 years old, jumped straight into there after college because I needed a job. Parents wanted me out of the house to start earning my keep and so on. But soon learned I absolutely hated dealing with the general public. So I was into cameras, still kind of am, into video recording, all that kind of stuff. I love the cool stuff, but I don't know if you've got much experience with this, Jordan, but we come across quite polite, but when it comes to sales reps, we're not. So I'd go up to folks looking at the counter, looking at cameras and be like, hi, sir, or hi, madam, can I help you? Or what are you looking at today? And just get told to F off multiple times throughout the day, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, minimum wage, not really gaining much here, not really learning much, just doing standard retail stuff. And ironically, my wife's been in retail for years and years and was like a store manager. So she's cut for it. I'm not, clearly. After about a year or so of that, my cousin mentioned to me that there was a web dev agency and they might need kind of a project manager role coming up. This is probably about good 13 or so, 14 or so years ago now. And I was like, sounds great. Did an interview. They said, yeah, you're welcome to come aboard if you'd like. And next day, just walked out of the retail shop and started at this web agency and pretty much did a bit of everything. So it was mainly websites. So it was like proper jack of all trades role, like a bit of project management, a bit of sales, a bit of marketing, a bit of working with the offshore web team. But I definitely think that going into a quite fast-paced startup where there's not many employees and you're really thrown in the deep end and you've got to kind of constantly ask questions to learn on the job is like one of the best things you can do. Certainly for a career, if you want to go into that kind of thing, like learning on the job is great because necessity is the mother of invention really proves right there. And like a quick funny story from there, one of my, back then, like I say, 14 or so years ago when I was into selling websites, as like a junior project manager or whatever you want to call it for this company, one of the first leads, we used to buy leads. So we used to buy in leads for folks that wanted to basically design websites. So one of the first leads I ever called, he wanted a nice, simple website, just the scope of LinkedIn. So, nice, easy platform, right? And I had no clue what I was doing on this sales call. I'd never really sold over the phone or anything like that before. This was before the days of Zoom calls and stuff. So I just said yes to every requirement. I was like, can you do this? Yes. Can I have this spec? Yes. Can I have this platform? Yes. And turned out I pretty much sold a LinkedIn spec'd website for about £500 or $700. And thank the Lord, he did sign up for that. But thank the Lord, he put that on the back burner, and eventually we managed to ship him off for a couple of simple websites. We never had to deliver that. But that was one of the tragedies. And then years go by, made many mistakes, many learnings, and eventually kind of got into SEO. I became a partner in that company. Eventually moved on, kind of exited out of that company kind of almost 2 or so years ago. And then started a podcast, much like yourself, kind of realized that B2B was probably the space I wanted to be in. After that last web agency, we pretty much sold to anyone and everyone. And that was really painful from a cash flow perspective. So like selling websites, like website design, in my opinion anyway, is quite lumpy for cash flow. Like you have good months when you sell a few projects and poor months when you don't. And I thought, well, we're doing SEO for the business. It kind of makes sense to sell that. That's quite steady in terms of recurring revenue. But the customers we're trying to sell to are just inconsistent. They're hard work. We have to convince them. After I started my podcast, Breaking B2B, well, it wasn't originally called that. It is now. I realized that our B2B companies were way easier to deal with because they had dedicated marketing departments, especially kind of our niche now, tech and SaaS. They understand that marketing's an investment. They understand search and AI search is something that can help fuel their sales pipeline, and they're motivated to solve that problem, invest in it. So eventually found the niche, started up this agency, Breaking B2B, like 21 months ago, and have slowly been ramping this up as a bootstrap founder, and that's kind of where we are today.
Okay. You say slowly ramping this up, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that you're at, I think, just over 6 figures at M ARR, and you've got one member on the staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. I think we're taking on someone else, but they're kind of part-time as well. So, doing about 120, 130.
How have you managed to do that?
Just learning from all my mistakes over the years, really, and being painfully consistent. But I can certainly dive into kind of the strategies and tactics and what's worked and what's not.
Yeah, I guess specifically just focusing on here, like how have you scaled delivery without losing quality with one member of the team?
Yeah. So I suppose my advantage, which is also my disadvantage, is I love selling, I love creating content, and I love marketing. I am awful at operations and dealing with team members. So to start with, when for the first probably year of Breaking B2B, so the first 12 months, I think 12 months in, we were at 50K MRR and USD. I purely use trusted contractors. So only like our writers were all contracted, link builders contracted, web dev contracted, SEO strategists all contracted. So I suppose my advantage, I've done that setup for a long time. I've worked in web agencies, I've worked in marketing agencies, I've worked in similar setups where I've basically been almost, you could call it a broker. Like I know the industry, I know SEO, I can do SEO, but I'd rather not be doing it. I'd rather be focusing on the parts of the business that I like, aka selling, marketing, creating content. So I've always kind of I always had that in my mind. I knew that wasn't sustainable. Like once we started getting to, I don't know, beyond 50 to like 60, 70K MRR, things started getting tight, and I was like, I need extra support. I can't be endlessly at my computer on Slack messages and email from like 8 in the morning to 12 at night. It's not sustainable. And that's when I realized I needed to hire.
Okay. What does that internal team person or people you're adding now, what does that look like, and what are they responsible for versus what you kind of outsource?
Yeah. So we've basically that was the first person. Fortunately, I'd worked with this chap who's up in Scotland. Shout out Fred. I'd worked with him as a contractor previously. So luckily I knew that one, he was a solid for us SEO strategist, but he could hit my weaknesses. He'd had experience in building teams and experience in hiring. I was like, you're literally the perfect candidate. You can do everything that I can, or I don't want to be doing because I'm terrible at it. So I eventually said, like, are you open to a new role? Because I think he had kind of small hours. His last role wasn't really like a permanent thing. I said, look, let's have a chat. Talk through kind of where he was at. I said, look, where do you want to get to in the next few years? Like, what does great look like? And he said he wanted to lead a team. And I said, that sounds great. He said, I love doing all this operational stuff. I was like, awesome. Just asked him how much did he want for an annual salary. I said, fine, done. Signed the paperwork. And then 3 months in, gave him another promotion because he was such an asset to our business. So that was kind of the flow. And he helps tons with just the day-to-day liaising with our contractors. I tend to only account manage like a couple of our top tier clients, and then him, he's full time, and then we've got one more contractor that we've just brought on board who's doing like half-time hours, and he's helping with the client account management and building up strategies for the rest of the team, and everyone else is a contractor.
Okay, so it's kind of having people to manage that client-facing relationship and kind of sit in between that and your kind of other rest of the team that's outsourced.
Exactly. Yeah. So one, onboarding, because we're growing reasonably fast, onboarding new contractors and vetting them. Yeah. Building strategies for clients, because that's a big piece of the SEO puzzle each month. Making sure we deliver on time. And also which I learned, again, shout out to Rich, my business coach. He's kind of instilled it in me that we're a service agency before we're an SEO agency. So making sure we focus on that service part, that customer happiness, that retention, that churn reduction, and making them inclined to refer to us. So always going above and beyond what we say we're going to deliver, ideally 5% above and beyond. So we do something called weekly wins or weekly touch points, where we try and do a little bit extra for that client than we promised each week.
Nice. Okay. You mentioned there that you're growing pretty quickly at the minute. What do you put that success down to on the kind of lead gen side?
I'd say a mix of I'd say there's a few high level elements, and then happy to break down the actual tactics and strategies if you wish. I'd say one is I like to think, well, I don't like to think, I am in a boring industry in my opinion. Although I like SEO, many people find it boring. Don't blame them. But a lot of SEOs talk about the same stuff. Like, this is how you do SEO strategy, this is how you rank, or this is how you show up on AI search, this is how you do link building, whatever. I was like, well, I need to do the opposite. If I want to get attention, I need to do the opposite of what every other SEO is doing. So let's do that. Hence why my philosophy for our media and content marketing flywheel at Breaking B2B is get attention, stand out first, then link it back to our offer and our product. So I've done some crazy stuff over the last kind of 21 months, like gone out in the public and just interviewed people in my local town, in London, outside Buckingham Palace, in Bristol, all cities all over UK, and asked them, like, what is SEO? How'd you get to the top of Google? I've worn a sandwich board in front of me at Buckingham Palace and that says AI killed SEO, and on the back, I can't remember what it said. It said AI killed SEO. Oh yeah, and on the back it said, if you're doing it wrong. And that was funny. A lot of folks came up to me and had a chat there. I've dressed up as SEO man or Superman, going round giving SEO tips. So I suppose at a high level my philosophy is kind of get the attention, and then of course share some sensible advice. Like, this is, in my case, how you do SaaS SEO. These are breakdowns, the case studies, all the standard stuff to build trust, right? And fill the funnel. So that's kind of how we think about the content at a high level. And then it's, I guess, being painfully consistent. So we have the podcast and the YouTube, Breaking B2B, that kind of, I guess, is the big engine for that. So we do a lot of like weekly. So we've invested a lot into YouTube over the last year. So we do a lot of solo episodes where I'll share kind of specific case studies, in our case on SEO. We did a partnership with a SaaS company called B2B, where they hadn't done a ton of SEO before. And me and B2B's founder completely built in public on LinkedIn and on YouTube, like sharing exactly what we're doing for them for SEO. So other SaaS companies can just copy it. So it's almost like be radically different and share everything. And yeah, loads of people will copy it for sure, but a small percentage will think, oh, these guys actually know what they're doing. They're different to what everyone else is saying. Like, let's inquire more. So that's it at a high level, kind of how we think about the media and the content engine.
Okay. In terms of maybe directly attributable kind of revenue or lead flow, what have been the best initiatives?
Yeah. So there's a few. So I suppose LinkedIn's a big one, just because I've been on there so long and painfully consistent. So just posting on there, and again, like I say, all this weird stuff, from interviewing folks on the public to dressing up as SEO man to actually doing SEO breakdowns and videos and strategies and all that kind of stuff. That gets us a nice steady chunk of like inbound booked calls each month. aside from that, our own SEO. So we've got to practice what we preach and show up on Google Organic and AI search when folks search for like best SaaS SEO agencies or B2B SaaS SEO agency and that kind of stuff to show that we can deliver. We also run LinkedIn thought leader ads. So we sponsor kind of my performing posts, whether that is breakdowns or tips or strategies or social proof or client case studies, whatever it may be. And then we'll get those in front of our website traffic. So retarget those visitors to keep top of mind. And we also send them to cold traffic, like ICP, ideal client profiles, like I think it's like 1,800 cold ICPs to kind of get them in the funnel. So those have been good. The experiment, I do a lot of experiments. Some work, some don't. And one was, I touched on it earlier, this B2B play where we run the SEO engine for a guy called Adam Robinson and his SaaS company B2B. So he's fairly notorious on LinkedIn. He has a really strong following of B2B SaaS marketing leaders. So I had a small relationship with him before. He was on my podcast and kind of reached out to him and offered to run his SEO. We had a bit of back and forth. It was good timing. I also reached out to several other founders who didn't respond. And he was the one who was up for it. And it kind of played out well because we're both into kind of sharing what we're doing with our companies on LinkedIn, building in public, sharing on YouTube and the podcast. And just by him sharing kind of what we're doing each month and us, that's given us a decent chunk of pipeline. We also run Google Ads. We spend a few grand on that each month, again, for high intent search terms around SaaS SEO agency and stuff. And then I suppose the more kind of owned assets and the media flywheel, like we talked about, YouTube, the audio podcast, Breaking B2B, that we do a weekday newsletter. And that all kind of feeds in, like we'll do a YouTube video, but that'll give me tons of ideas for LinkedIn posts for my weekday newsletter. And it all kind of feeds into each other. And I also sometimes interview SaaS marketing leaders on the podcast. And again, sometimes they'll refer to us and sometimes they'll become clients. So that's some of the core channels. Like I said, I run experiments as well with different ad channels every now and then. Some work, some don't. And we have like partnerships are probably a small piece of the puzzle as well. So there's a couple agencies that send us work or send us intros to kind of SaaS clients, and then we'll give them a kickback if we close deals and that kind of stuff. So I suppose those are some of the core channels.
It seems very much like you're kind of focused on building out a flywheel. What would you say to someone that kind of disagrees with you and says you just focus on one lead source, get that absolutely killing it, and just go all in on that?
You're probably right. It would be a lot easier than what I'm doing, right? But it seems to be working at the moment. Like we are getting steady growth, like I said, in a reasonably short amount of time. If you can nail one channel, heck yeah. Like it makes your life easier. If you can get one channel, like, I don't know, LinkedIn found a brand. But the thing is, like with LinkedIn, for example, the organic reach has tanked like crazy, at least for me over the last few months. Hence why we're doing thought leadership ads and company ads and doing all this other stuff. But I quite like it. So I suppose my philosophy is that I really think that one marketing channel alone, especially because we're not selling cheap stuff, right? Our ACV is like 60, 70K a year. So no one suddenly wakes up deciding to spend 60, 70, 100K a month or a year, on SEO. It doesn't happen. Hence why I think I think all B2B companies need to think of their marketing as an ecosystem. Like someone might search for what we do. Great. They see us top of Google or AI search. They might flag it with their exec team to consider us as an option. Then they might check out the podcast. Then they might forget about us for a while. Then they might follow the newsletter and enjoy the tips. And eventually they might reach back out when they're ready for a call. And that happens a lot for our inbound leads. Like they'll go through several channels. And when I ask them on a discovery call, like, what was your route to stumbling upon us today? They'll tell me. And if I just did one thing, we would have less impact.
Makes sense. Is it also, this flywheel of content, specifically the kind of YouTube podcast stuff, does that also help your SEO?
Yeah, to a certain extent. So I suppose we kind of craft a lot of the solo episodes we do on YouTube have SEO thought behind them. So they are YouTube first in the way they're produced. But like the titles of the videos will be relevant to the audience we're going after. Like I share a 6.3 million ARR SaaS SEO strategy because folks are searching for SaaS SEO strategy, or they might have a SaaS SEO guides. We think about what we call our money keywords and try to weave them into the title so they're evergreen and can be found on YouTube. Not only that, but the good thing is with YouTube, like there's so many hits. If you embed a relevant YouTube video onto like your website article or landing page, it can give you a bit of a SEO boost. Also, you can get featured when you do a Google search in the video panel. Plus, the YouTube videos can be pulled up in like AI searches like ChatGPT and stuff. There's a lot of benefits.
You mentioned it, Adam Robinson. I think that was how I came across you on LinkedIn actually as well.
Okay.
You talked about kind of how you came into contact and kind of pitched that relationship. What is the strategy that you've used to grow our B2B for him?
Oh, the SEO strategy?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, I think a lot of SEO gets overhyped and overcomplicated. I'm quite a simple guy, so a lot of the strategies I share are reasonably straightforward. At least I think they are. Could be wrong. But so our B2B, they're basically visitor identification software, right? Someone goes onto your website. I think at the moment it's US only that they can track the visitor level. Otherwise, it's company level outside of that. So their whole time to value prop is that someone in the US visits your website, like you're going to get pinged in Slack, so your sales team can like reach out to them or whatever they want to do and start prospecting that account. So we thought, well, Adam's grown our B2B tremendously with his founder brand on LinkedIn. Let's look at SEO. Let's look at AI search. In simple terms, what's a dream client going to search, be it on Google Organic or ChatGPT, when they're not messing around, but when they actually need the solution? So it's basically bottom funnel, pipeline focused SEO, right? And there's usually a few buckets you can split this into. For example, usually when I'm giving folks recommendations on firing up an SEO campaign for pipeline, demos, leads, booked calls, I'll say, think about building something called a money keyword matrix. And in simple terms, it can be a lot more complex than this, but to keep it simple, it's like 4 columns. Column 1, what's our main offer? Column 2, what's the industries that we serve best, that have historically bought well into our solution, that have the expensive problem we solve and are motivated to do business with us. Column 3 is what are all the main competitors that come up on sales conversations or that we get evaluated against, almost to an annoying level, like always chopped and changed against them. And column 4 is what's our dream client's jobs to be done? What's their struggling moment? What do they try and do in-house? What do they try and do before they get so frustrated it causes them like revenue loss or time loss or churn of staff or something else? So in our B2B's case, column 1 is what's every way someone can refer to their solution. That could be visitor identification software. It could be visitor identification platforms. It could be like there's a bunch of ways, like every way that someone could review it, whether it's tools, platforms, software, etc. Industries, I mean, they could serve a bunch, right? It could be sales teams, ABM, like there's a bunch of use cases that are specific to them. Competitors, you've got folks like Leadfeeder, Lead Forensics, Warmly, that kind of stuff. And then jobs to be done. It could be like how to identify website visitors or how to reveal who's visiting my website. And the crux of that is we're building what's called long tail searches or long tail keywords, and we're prioritizing the ones that have low keyword difficulty, and that have high sales intent. So if someone searches this, they're likely to, in our B2B's case, grab a free sign up. In other case, grab a demo, grab a call. So let's start there. So in their case, something like Leadfeeder alternatives is a great one because they're pretty easy to rank for alternative-based keywords, and no one searches Leadfeeder alternatives for fun as a pastime. They search it because they're either annoyed with Leadfeeder that doesn't give them the value they need, or they're evaluating that as one of their options. Therefore, what tends to rank well for those kind of pages is a listicle-based article, like we evaluated the top 10 Leadfeeder alternatives of 2026. We position our B2B as number 1. We back it by customer research. We don't put AI slop. We say, look, this is why folks typically use our B2B. These are the main problems they have. This is how it solves them. Here's screenshots or GIFs of the product in action, like the aha moment where you get the visitor ping into Slack and your sales team are like, what the heck? And and then a fair comparison of the others. So that's kind of a high level of the kind of money keyword and content strategy. And basically you build content that blows whatever is ranking top right now out of the water. And then the off-page SEO is earning niche relevant backlinks for industry relevant sites, as well as getting our B2B featured in external sites that are talking about their tools, product, or platform. So again, that could be external listicles, like we evaluate the top 10 visitor identification softwares of 2026. We'd look to get them featured top. That gives them a really good boost in AI search and AI overviews, ChatGPT, and also gives them a backlink for classic SEO. So that's a high level of the strategy. There's way more to it. Happy to go deeper as you wish.
Nice. I will try to go through the long list of questions that I've got after that. So the first bit, you said you start off at the bottom of funnel. How do you kind of know when you've maximized the impact that you can have there, and what's the approach to kind of go beyond that and kind of up the funnel?
Yeah, good question. So I suppose there's only so much you can do in SaaS, and usually that's in B2B SaaS, it's like best X tools, best X platform, best X software, and then best X tools for industry, and then for use case, and then all the competitor-based terms, so competitor 1 versus competitor 2, and then feature yourself as the alternative, and then all the competitor alternative, competitor pricing, competitor review, all those pages. Then, depending on your tool, if you're B2B tech, you might have integration pages that are quite high sales intent. So there could be quite a lot there. Those are other things to consider. And there might be a few other variations. So realistically, that's a few months' work for most companies. Once you've maxed that out, then with your content, you can move up funnel. And that might be moving on to specific jobs to be done based content. So how to, but not generic how-to stuff, but very crisp problems that your user might have, like how to reveal B2B visitors on my website or something like that. That's kind of really specific to what folks ask for on sales calls. And then you'll build content that says, this is like the old way of doing it, but this is the new way you can use our tool. And within 1 minute, you'll instantly see someone on Slack and grab a free sign up, and this is how it works. So move up funnel, but then also you can do all the off-page stuff that we've talked about. So if your website is new to SEO and you don't have much domain authority, you'll have to start with low difficulty, like competitor content, and look to rank that. And meanwhile, you want to be earning niche relevant backlinks. And there's a bunch of strategies I can share on that if you like. So earn those and also get your website placed in other sites that are evaluating tools like yours, so you can start getting cited in an AI search.
Okay. That's what I want to take next. So the AI stuff. And I guess, for reference, we're filming this towards the end of 2025. From a macro level perspective, what does that shift look like from kind of traditional SEO, Google, Bing search to AI, LLM search?
Yeah. At a high level, a lot of websites that have historically invested in SEO, they're seeing their traffic go down. They're seeing clicks from Google Organic go down, but they're seeing impressions go up. And the main reason for that is the introduction of AI search, so things like AI overviews and getting instant responses above the fold in organic search results. And likewise, more folks using tools like ChatGPT and LLMs, where you instantly get served the answers. So and it doesn't necessarily mean that the websites themselves are getting less visitors, but quite often what it means is the brands are getting mentioned, and then folks might directly search for your brand name or go straight to your homepage, etc. So I strongly believe we're moving more into a brand mindshare game over the next couple of years, as naturally, just like LinkedIn has plummeted their organic reach, they want to keep you on platform. Well, they want to serve you more ads and sell more to businesses. Why wouldn't Google and AI searches want to do the same, right? They want to keep you on platform. Google have got AI mode, which is their own version of ChatGPT, basically. ChatGPT are going to start kind of weaving in ad partnerships, and I think they already are on the e-com B2C front. So it kind of makes sense that they want to keep you on platform and not necessarily send you off to an external website where they lose you. So I think getting those being mentioned is becoming more and more important, because folks don't necessarily always have to go to your website. I mean, they will eventually when they're ready to convert, right, in B2B and book a demo or grab a sign up, whatever. But when they're doing that initial research, i.e. evaluating options for a certain job to be done, searching for a specific type of software, maybe evaluating vendors, all that kind of stuff, it's common in SaaS. If they consistently see your brand mentioned top, then they might just make a shortlist themselves. Then they might speak to their peers in a community, then they might speak to their exec team and then go straight to your website and grab a demo or grab a call.
Is there any world where, you get less clicks, you get more impressions? I get that kind of brand is more important, but are you concerned that maybe conversions go down as well?
Possibly. I think there's definitely one case where there's definitely one instance where that was the case. Like if your website or your company historically focused on what we call top funnel content, or what we call the traffic trap, went after traffic at all costs, i.e. had a great blog on their website, but it was all kind of very simple, high level how-to website, like how-to content, like what is a KPI or how to build a website or what is a CRM, just simple stuff that just gets blown out by AI answers. If you did that, then you've definitely been punished. And that's why we always start at the bottom of the funnel. Bottom of funnel kind of traffic doesn't look as great on the dashboards, but it's more likely to drive the inbounds. And yeah, there is a chance that maybe your traffic and leads have dropped a bit depending on what your strategy is. But I think kind of a lot of companies, at least ones we deal with, are maybe seeing some dips in traffic, but they're still actually getting the pipeline or the conversions come in.
Okay. And in terms of, if we were to look at a pie chart of search volume across kind of traditional Google search versus AI, what percentage of kind of the pie is AI taking up now?
Yeah. So Rand Fishkin and Spark Toro, and I think SEMrush were involved, did a nice report. This was a few months back in the summer. And I believe it was kind of 2 to 3% of searches AI, and of which ChatGPT was the majority.
But that's tiny, right?
It's small. And that's the funny thing. Like, so many sales calls, nearly every discovery call, not all, but nearly every discovery call with us is a marketing leader or a founder saying, like, can you help us get more visibility on AI search? And I'll say, well, hold on a minute. Who's your ideal client profile? Like, who's your dream client? Because if they're a super technical user, i.e. maybe a B2B marketer, which is pretty meta, or maybe a developer or something like that, then yeah, they're probably using like ChatGPT every day. They've probably scrapped Google search. But if you're more of an old school industry, then they're probably still using Google Organic, or they're probably using a bit of both, right? Maybe they're using ChatGPT to kind of get more and more info, do their evaluation, then they're going to Google to kind of search directly or evaluate and compare or convert. So before you kind of think AI search is the be all and end all, like Google is still the beast when it comes to demand capture. And old habits die hard, right? People are so used to going to Google first. And I think they know that ChatGPT and tools like that can sometimes hallucinate and not necessarily always give the right information. So it's important to bear in mind that Google is still by far the beast when it comes to market share. And that on that last report, like AI tools were only like 2 to 3%. Of course, that's going to rise. And of course, that does depend on the niche you're in. If you're selling to techies, then it's going to be way higher. But I suppose the good news is, at least from our experience, a lot of winning on AI search is just good, solid bottom funnel SEO plus a few small digital PR additions.
Okay. Do you know roughly what that kind of 2 to 3% is forecast to do over the next couple of years?
Well, SEMrush did a report and they predicted, Backlink and SEMrush, they said by I think 2028, they thought that AI search would overtake, which I think is still a big bet. I'm not sold on that, actually. I would be surprised. Initially, I thought it was going to happen, but I don't think, like I said, if you're selling to tech-heavy ICPs, yeah, sure. If you've got more of an old-school audience, then I think when you put them all together, I'd be surprised if that does happen. unless Google, for example, fully rolls out AI mode and you have to use AI, then it probably will.
Yeah. I guess it's hard to say, right? But it seems like the big kind of wave of AI usage is probably like if you're going to make the switch from Google to ChatGPT, you've probably already done that.
And there's been a lot of studies that show people use both.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I want to kind of touch on now the differences in kind of the two from your perspective as regards trying to kind of rank and get impressions and clicks from Google versus, let's say, ChatGPT.
Yeah. So I suppose the main thing is that, at least from our research and everything we've done, is that tools like ChatGPT and AI Search work more off brand mentions. And folks often say to me, like, Sam, what's the quickest way that I can get my brand or my company or my website consistently mentioned on ChatGPT and AI Search? I say, well, it's easy. Just go back in time 10 years ago and build a brand. But not many of us can do that, of course. So we have to do other ways. So yeah, ChatGPT tools like that, they tend to work a lot of brand mentions. Yes, there's a lot of other stuff, but a lot of it is arguably classic SEO work. So making sure, one, your website is a best-in-class resource. So what I mean by that is you've worked out what your money keywords are. You've worked out what every way a dream client could search for your solution when they need it, whether that's industry pages, product pages, use cases, integrations, competitor pages, how-to articles, and beyond. And your website is super easy to navigate. It also gives people key information they need around your offer, why you, about you, product, pricing, which is important, results, case studies, easy to contact, and it's structured in a kind of user-friendly manner. Pretend you do that. Then I suppose that the main addition, which isn't necessary, and also in the content you build for each page, making sure it actually addresses kind of real things that your dream clients care about, that's backed by customer research. Like, for example, if it's a landing page, we know you're facing these 3 problems. This is the impact if you don't fix them. This is specifically how we solve them. Here's proof that we've delivered it for other customers. Here's an FAQ section handling real difficult questions that we get asked on sales calls. All that kind of best practice stuff. And then I suppose the main addition is, which some would argue isn't an addition, is basically digital PR. So getting your brand. And this is why companies that have built a brand 10, 15, 20 years ago got the advantage, because their company is consistently mentioned on external websites, be it review sites, Forbes, industry news, articles, press releases, etc. And this is where new brands struggle, because if you look at tools like ChatGPT, when they pull information, if you look at it from a B2B tech perspective, pretty much every time you go to ChatGPT and you search for something like, I'm evaluating this for my company, show me the best X options for this type of software. If you look at the actual, when they give you the list of 5, 6, 7 brands and the bullet points, if you look at the little links, the citations, they're nearly always from listicle articles or review sites. So occasionally Reddit as well. It'll be like, we evaluated the top 10 X solutions of 2026. And that's the majority of what you see. So a big thing is if you can get your brand listed in those as well as building them on your own website, so owning the narrative there, if you can also get yourself mentioned on those external sites consistently, that's a really big thing for B2B tech, AI visibility.
So I was going to ask about that because I've noticed this a few times when I search something similar. It will cite that brand's own website as a listicle that they've kind of put together where they're kind of number one. Is that like a hack to this, or what's the reason for that?
Yeah, for sure. So I often say, like, the first thing you want to do is, if you want to take SEO and AI search like seriously in B2B tech, then you want to control the narrative. So rather than relying on external websites that may or may not mention you, first and foremost, let's build the house to be as strong and well equipped as possible. Imagine we're fishing. We want as many lines in the water as possible on Google and AI search when someone needs our solution. And unfortunately, these article listicles are a necessary evil, because almost every time you search on Google or AI search for best X software tools platforms, these things get cited from. So yeah, build them on your own site for almost every variation of your product. And also they show up well for when folks are searching for alternatives and things like that, like X alternative, competitor alternative. So definitely build them on your own website. And the best way to build those, I suppose, is a bit like we talked about earlier for our B2B, kind of pull as much customer research and insights as you can about why people choose you for that specific use case. Show your product in action so people can get the aha moment, back it by some social proof, and then make it easy for folks to grab a sign up or book a call and then do a fair evaluation of the other vendors, the other 9 or 10 solutions that are out there. And then, the next step is to get featured on external other websites talking about your product.
Okay. In no part of the kind of strategy talk so far have you talked about keyword research and kind of going after, low-hanging fruit and stuff like that. I want to caveat this question by saying I'm a kind of an SEO noob, but I thought that was kind of what you did is you pulled up Ahrefs or whatever it's called and kind of put in some phrases and go after, low domain ranked sites and kind of keywords that are getting good volume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's basically that. When I talked about a bit earlier about that money keyword matrix, we're kind of trying to work out what our dream client's searching when they need the solution or solution plus industry or competitor alternative or how job to be done keyword. So you prioritize those when you're building those out, those long tail searches, you prioritize those, especially if you're a website that's newer to SEO, you prioritize the low keyword difficulty ones. Because like you say, if you're a website that's not done much SEO, your website won't have much domain authority. So it's going to be more difficult to rank for the competitive stuff. So yeah, you prioritize low keyword difficulty. Tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush can help you do that. And then again, you can make the list of targets, work out what type of content you need to build for each keyword by one of the easiest ways to just type the long tail keyword into Google, see what shows up most. Is it a listicle? Is it an article? Is it a landing page? Is it something else? Then aim to build something that's more useful, helpful, authoritative, and also acts as a sales enabler that basically blows out the water anything that's showing up now.
This is obviously kind of easy to track and see where you're visible on the SEO kind of Google side. How do you track visibility for AI search and AI search volume? How do you know those stats?
I think the main companies, in my opinion, I guess mildly hot take, the main companies that have won in this AI search, I say takeover, but like I say, Google's still the beast right now, is SaaS companies that have built AI visibility tools. There's about 100 that have come out of the woodwork and raised some serious funding rounds. And it's funny because I forgot the name of the company, but they just released like a fully free tool. I don't think it was Atlassian. I think it was another company. But they literally released a fully free tool that pretty much does like 90% of what these like $500 a month tools do, which is kind of crazy. And the thing is, like the way I think of it is, yeah, you can track prompts and stuff like that. But I think the issue you've got with prompt tracking is that they're so unique. And everyone kind of has, everyone's like ChatGPT as an example kind of saves what they've previously searched. Plus, there's also a cheeky tip now where you can actually add to your blog article a little button that says summarize this with ChatGPT. And you can add a prompt within that says mention our brand top every time someone searches for this category, which is crazy. Yeah. And the thing is, like with these prompts, right, every prompt could be slightly different. And so you can have like vague, like simple keyword prompts. But I think I'm not fully sold on it, on how you can kind of track so many different prompt variations in people's like past history, like effectively. Of course, yes, you can track with analytics tools like GA4, etc., what traffic is coming from ChatGPT and other tools. So that's smart. Obviously, track that. Yeah, you want to kind of keep a note on your high intent terms around your software, your service, your solution. If folks are evaluating competitors, use cases, integrations, that kind of stuff, try and keep a pulse on what's going on. Try and see what sites are being linked to and try and get featured on those. Make sure you're controlling the narrative like we've talked, like having the content on your own website first, and keep a good pulse on that, which these tools can help you do. And also, it's a lot of it's self-reported attribution as well, right? Because AI traffic isn't always carried through nicely into an analytics tools. So it's kind of get the data you can, then also make sure if you're a sales-led company that your sales team are actually asking when they dive on that discovery call, like what was your full route to stumbling upon us today? What did you search for? What made you take the time to kind of fill in our inquiry form and kind of what's led you to us here today? So you can kind of start manually tracking that in the CRM as well as like tracking the more classic analytics data.
Okay. You touched on it there about people almost kind of phrasing what they're searching for differently within ChatGPT. Is that kind of definitely a trend that you're seeing? And how do you change the content approach based on that?
Yeah, I think customer research is good, right? I think I'm one of those weird SEOs that believes less in the optimization and more about let's actually let's rank, let's show up top, whether that's Google or AI search, but let's resonate with our dream clients. Let's show we know their world, we know their problems, their frustrations, we know their goals, their motivations, their jobs to be done, we know what they care about, and then we can position our platform or product or our service as the painkiller. So with classic SEO, that was easier because you could just track on Google like what keywords are being searched for in the volumes with tools like Ahrefs and Google Search Console. With tools like ChatGPT, it's way more difficult because, to your point, someone on Google might search best HR software. On ChatGPT, they might say, I'm a CMO with a team of 50 reps. I need this HR software with these features within these price range. Show me the top 5 options. It gets a little bit more difficult. So that's where, because of the nuances of making sure, whether it's an article that you've built, whether it's a landing page, you're trying to tackle these you're not going to know every way someone's going to search for you. Let's be real. That's a crazy feat. But let's try and cover the main things that folks are asking for, like, do you integrate with this tool? Like maybe if it's a landing page, you have an FAQ section at the bottom. Like, yes, we integrate with this tool. Yes, we cover this. What's your returns policy? How many seats do I get for free and all that kind of stuff? And if there's crisp and specific questions you can handle in the copy, great. If there's specific use cases, great. If there's specific people you serve, great. So kind of think about what's commonly raised on like CS, sales, prospecting calls and that kind of stuff and try and weave that in there. So then you've got a good chance to actually show up for those relevant prompts and at the same time be useful for that prospect.
Moving on, and I might title this section SEO noob questions. The first one, or the first part of this, you've talked about, the different types of pages that you do. So listicles, landing pages, articles. Is that it? Are there more? And what are the how do you structure the different types?
Oh yeah. I mean, I suppose I deal with a lot of B2B tech companies, so you can have landing pages. And again, that falls into a wide umbrella. It could be industry page, like an offer for an industry. It could be a use case. Integration might follow a similar route. And product pages, again, kind of a rough, similar flow. And I guess those will be roughly under that umbrella. But then I suppose when you get to articles, then you can have different types of articles. Like you can have an how-to, job to be done article. You could have a listicle, which is a list of the top vendors. You can have an alternative listicle. You can have direct comparison, X vendor versus Y vendor. Yeah, so I suppose that's some of the flavors, and then websites tend to have more nuanced pages as well.
Okay. Should you be thinking through the split between your content, like on those categories, or is that just kind of a function of just create good content that, as you said, target the bottom of funnel stuff, look at the competitors, etc. That's what you should focus on instead.
Exactly. Yeah, nail the strategy before you even worry about tactics. So, okay. I mean, the crux, most people do SEO not for a pastime. They do it because they want to drive leads or demos or signups or fuel their sales team. So it makes sense. Like let's work out what these dream clients are searching when they need the solution, or when they need the offer for the industry, or when they're moving away from a vendor, or they're evaluating their options, or they have the problem we solve. Great. Now, to your point, Nick mentioned earlier, that's prioritized. If we've got a website that has limited authority, we've not done much SEO, that's prioritized oftentimes the low traffic searches, the low difficulty ones, but they have high sales intent. Then let's literally just Google that keyword, see what type of content we need to rank, what shows up most, which is called assessing the intent to see what type of page we need to build. Is it a listicle? Is it an article? Is it a landing page, product page, whatever? Let's then build a page that's far superior to what else is there right now. And then let's build in a process for our company whereby we're doing this on a consistent basis, but that's realistic, whether that's crafting one page a week or several, or maybe hire a contractor or an agency to assist you. But the main thing is this process, to give you a real world example, I've seen enterprise companies, like thousands of staff, take 6 months to a year to publish one article. Your advantage as a smaller business or a scrappier business that can move quickly is speed. That's how you can get ahead of giant competitors. Because if you've ever worked with mid-market or enterprise companies, they have a lot of red tape. You've got managers that approve managers to approve managers to approve execs. Everything goes through a very long approval process. So your advantage as a smaller business with a leaner marketing team or leaner team as a founder is you can do everything we've talked about, identify those money keywords, build best-in-class pages on your website, build that moat, get mentioned on external sites, earn backlinks, etc. If you can do that at speed, you can get ahead of these competitors. And also you can do a lot of the tactics and strategies that those big giants won't be able to do. They won't be able to talk about the competitors. Or if they do, it will take them ages to get approvals and sign-offs. So you can just move way faster.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You touched on volume there. For the brands and clients that you have, what kind of output do you produce for them on a monthly basis?
Like many things, depends how much they invest and depends what resource they have in-house. We work with a lot of small marketing teams like Series A, Series B companies in SaaS. So it can range anywhere from 5 net new pieces of content to 10, 15, 20, depending on how much cash they spend with us. Like that's just one piece of the work.
Okay. And on the backlink side, maybe just a kind of rough average, what do you do for your clients there in terms of volume?
Yeah, again, on the smaller scale, like 4 to 5 backlinks acquired each month. And then on the higher scale, like 18, 20 plus.
Okay. And then obviously we've talked about kind of AI search, but in terms of AI content, are you using, LLMs or kind of any AI tools to help create content? Or do you stay away from that because it's punishable?
Yeah. I had an interesting discovery call yesterday where a marketing leader was actually moving away from a reasonably well-known company that's doing well. Like they're doing a heck of a lot in ARR. They've only been going about a year, but because their content was too AI driven, like they got some results, but they'd focused too much on AI search opposed to classic Google organic. So they were getting some traffic and mentions on AI search, but they weren't showing up well in Google, and they felt that was mainly because a lot of the content was AI generated. So we use AI right now. I don't believe AI is at a place where it can write content that's going to resonate effectively with your ICP consistently. So we use it more as an enabler and a workflow, like speed up. So maybe to help with, we know our money keywords, we know what we're targeting for this month. Maybe AI can help us with a rough outline for this page, but then we're going to extract subject matter expertise from the team, whoever we need it from. We're going to get those FAQs from sales. We're going to get this information. We're going to get the product imagery. And we're going to make sure this page is, because if we know if our target client lands on this, they're going to resonate. They're actually going to think this team knows what they're talking about. This is relevant to my pains. This is actually what I want to try and do, rather than an AI generated page that says, we're going to turbocharge your revenue with our all-in-one tech wizardry for your business platform. And someone bounces off the page within 3 seconds because it's nonsense.
Yeah. So it's kind of first rough draft AI, humans for page structure, high level expertise and editing.
Exactly. Yeah. Then human writing and editing.
Okay. And then in terms of article structure, you've talked about kind of FAQs, some of the other AI callable stuff as well. Are there certain sections that you think should be included in a lot of your pages, or what does kind of a good page structure look like?
Yeah, I think a lot of SEOs would probably argue with me on this, and it does depend on what you're building, right? It depends if it's a landing page or an article at a high level. But I'm one of those weird SEOs that says a lot of technical SEO is BS, like until you get to sites with thousands of pages, hence why I haven't even mentioned it yet. So, and a lot of the companies we deal with haven't done loads of SEO, or they've done a little bit of SEO in-house and need to ramp it up. So, and a lot of the time it's not until you get to kind of well-established, mature companies that have been around a long time that have like thousands of pages on the site. In that case, technical SEO is very important. But messing around with image alt tags and making your website 0.0001 second faster isn't going to move the needle compared to producing money content and earning links and mentions. So instead, as a rough structure, I suppose thinking about technical and thinking about structure is like you've got your money keyword, have that within your URL. So website.com/money keyword and hyphen to separate any spaces. You then, if it's an article, you have an author bio and a publish date. LLMs seem to like fresh published content. It's a nice image of your author and the bio and the date published. You have a H1, a heading 1 tag. You only want one H1 that has ideally your money keyword in. So we evaluated the top best X solutions of 2026. Then structure the page nicely. So break it up with headings like H2s, have bullet points to separate places, have plenty of product imagery, visuals, maybe a relevant YouTube video that's embedded on the topic. If it was a landing page, you might have FAQ section at the bottom. People say like chunk up your content because LLMs can pick it up. But I think smart SEOs were presenting their content that had a nice UX anyway, because no one wants to land on a blog that's like a wall of text. It's not split up, doesn't have imageries. Like your article should really be a sales page and feature your product as a solution or painkiller. And Hrefs, the SEO tool, one of the all-time greatest at this. If you go to the Hrefs blog, you'll see that every article acts as a sales page. Like they say, look, you might be struggling with this. This is specifically how our tool does it. Here's the tool in action, and click through to get a free sign up. So that's always worth checking out. And aside from that, internal links. So you normally want 5 to 7 roughly internal links to and from your page. So linking from, maybe you've got an article that links to relevant landing pages on the topic and vice versa. And you want your money keyword in your meta title and description. And aside from that, the main thing I'd say for technical is make sure you have a decent page load speed. It works well on mobile, tablet, PC. You've got a good UX and UI, which is clean. It's easy for folks to find the main information on your site, like product, features, use cases, pricing, results, book a demo, book a call. That's the main thing. And then I prioritize everything else we've talked about over technical SEO once you've done that.
Okay. Is there any truth to avoiding certain kind of site hosting platforms, or is there any that you should kind of gravitate towards?
I'm not sure, because I've built my website on one of the cheapest website builders ever, and that was Duda, purely because as a bootstrap founder, when I built my website, I just needed a cheap solution, and I'm amazed that my website still converts. And it was kind of like an experiment, like could we get this website built on this website builder ranking for like best SaaS SEO agency and that kind of stuff. And we did, surprisingly. So I think a lot of, like, from a website builder's perspective, they've come on leaps and bounds over the last years. Like most of them have the basics that you can do. From website hosting perspective, I used to be in the web dev game, as I mentioned many years ago. Thankfully, I'm out of that now. That was a really bad one. I can't remember the name. There was a hosting platform that used to go down like every week that we used. I don't know why we used it. They were painful. I think a lot of them are good now. I suppose I'd be more inclined to go self-hosted, like have a HubSpot site or a Webflow site or a Duda site, because it's all in one and they've had very rare downtimes if you can. Whereas obviously if you're on WordPress, then you need to use a provider, whether that's one-on-one, whatever it is. But yeah, my hosting knowledge isn't as good as it used to be.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I want to kind of finish off by talking about backlinks. So you mentioned they're kind of shooting for, I think it was 5 a month. Where do you go to get them? What does kind of good backlinking look like? And yeah, talk to me about best practices there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so the good news about backlinks is there's a lot of free ways that you can acquire them, and they can give you a nice organic boost. And you can also leverage a brand mention to kind of get some AI search goodness. So one of the quickest low-lift ways to earn backlinks is if you've got someone on your team that's like Jordan or I, whether that's a marketing leader, revenue leader, whoever, some exec or your founder maybe, that does a lot of PR, press, or podcast appearances. So if they have, and you know they'd have, all you need to do is cut and paste their LinkedIn profile URL, chuck it into a tool like Hrefs or SEMrush, click the backlinks tab, and look at all the company websites that have linked to their LinkedIn profile. And you'll notice, and you can filter it by authority and look for the ones that are actually relevant, because there'll be some rubbish. And then look for those nice juicy ones. Like for me, it might be HubSpot or something like that, like a nice high authoritative site. And you'll see a lot that have just linked to you, but only linked to your LinkedIn URL. So I'd then find out whoever like was the content manager, or if they're a small company, the founder, whoever published that page, I'd probably just find them on LinkedIn, just drop them a note, say like, hey, thanks for featuring my founder on this article. Wondered if you could actually mention our company name with this category, in our case, Breaking B2B or SaaS SEO agency, and then hyperlink, backlink back to this money page. most of them will be fine doing that. They've already gone for the effort to cite you and put their LinkedIn URL. I guess it's a small tweak, but it's a big uplift. That's one of the quickest wins you can get for backlinks and brand mentions. My next favorite tactic or strategy is, again, what we're doing now, podcast appearances. So do you know a site called Listen Notes, Jordan?
Yes, I watched it. I watched one of your videos where you talked about it.
Well, you've seen that. Yeah.
Please explain.
Sure. So there's a great site called Listen Notes, and I used to use this loads, and you can literally go onto that site, and there is others like it. You can just type in the focus niche that your customers are in. So in my case, B2B marketing, SaaS marketing. In anyone else's case, finance, accounting, whatever. And then you can see the top shows in that niche, and you can filter them by the top listen, top 10%, 5%, and so on. But you can see the host. So what you've probably seen, Jordan, and I get the same, is I get tons of emails for folks trying to go on my podcast. They're just these wall of text emails where I'm just instant delete. So you want to stand out. Like I talked about, a big thing I think in outreach in general is get the attention first. So I will see who hosts the podcast. I'll find them wherever they hang out, probably LinkedIn for me. Drop them a painfully short connect and just say like, hey Jess, had a weird idea to grow your podcast or something like that. Are you against a chat? She'll connect saying, Sam, what the heck are you going on about? And then I'll send her a Loom video with her podcast or article in the background or her YouTube in the background. Just say, look, enjoyed your recent show on XYZ. Actually had 2 different approaches or different ideas for your show, this and this, which I think could be useful. And then I'm happy to share it to my audience on LinkedIn and my email list. Would you be up for a chat? And that stands out. No one does that. No one records these Loom videos. I never get these Loom videos as a host with like almost 500 shows on my podcast. No one does it. That will get you at least a response, and you'll get a decent response rate. Better than a wall of text email. If you do a sequence of those, do a few a week, you'll get your exec team invited onto these shows. Make sure they do a genuinely valuable show. And then when it's going live, ask them to, on the article page, to again do that brand mention of your company and your solution and a backlink. And that's a really nice boost. But you also get the PR. You might get direct lead flow from people listening or watching the podcast, plus you get the SEO hit. So those are 2 of my favorites.
Okay. You mentioned there an article page. Should every podcast have its own website, hosting the video and then pushing traffic to the guest's website?
I think ideally probably have a section within your website, right? So maybe you have like a resource hub.
Okay.
And then that has like your, not necessarily within the blog, it could be under the resource tab, and you have like your podcast episodes. And then within there, maybe you have a write-up. It kind of summarizes the episode in an article format. You embed the YouTube video. You have the options for folks to listen, something like that. And then maybe you make it, like we talked about, a structure in a searchable way, so it has a chance to get found. So I think something straightforward like that.
You've also mentioned kind of way back earlier in this episode about, getting quoted in publications. How do you go about doing that?
Digital PR is tough. Definitely not my expertise in terms of kind of getting quoted in. I know in the UK we've got the Daily Telegraph, the Sun, and that kind of stuff. And US you've got the New York Times. So I'm yet to go in the New York Times. Maybe one day, maybe Forbes. And when I pay Forbes $5,000, I'll get my feature. I'd rather spend mine on my clients' time on stuff that's going to be more impactful for them. So right now, what we talked about that's working is getting placements in listicles, articles that are actually talking about our product, that are evaluating products in our sector. And I suppose, to give you a real world example, you can get featured in competitors talking about your solutions, even if they're direct competitors. As a real world example, my company, Breaking B2B, 3-4 months ago, we were pretty much invisible on ChatGPT if you search for like SaaS SEO agencies. All I did was make a list of like my top 10, 15 competitors, did this process I've talked about, the weird connect on LinkedIn, and got placements in nearly all their articles. And in return, I just placed them in our articles. And that's worked. It's given us a massive SEO boost, given us a massive AI search boost. Will that change? Possibly. If it does, we'll do something else. We'll move on. But you can get placements, but you've got to be willing to do stuff that no one else does and offer them something of value on your website, whether that's a backlink, a placement, invite them on your podcast, co-create an episode together, co-create a LinkedIn post, webinar, whatever's going to be valuable to them. And it does work. Some you will have to pay. Some people will be insistent on paying it, probably if they're like review sites and they're not competitors, but then they're not going to really care about value exchange.
Do you get involved with that if someone asks for cash?
Sometimes, yeah, because sometimes like for our client placements, we'll do manual outreach to find these sites that are talking about their products or their services, and then we might have to pay. If they're not open to some kind of value exchange, occasionally we have to make payments.
Okay, is that pretty rare though for you?
Not too much, yeah. Usually we've got sites that we can get them placements in, and that works out kind of a bit of a better win-win. But there is kind of some sites where you have to pay a few $100 or whatever it is.
Okay. Sam, thank you so much for joining me. That was a super valuable podcast. I learned a ton. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Appreciate having me on.
Cool.